The President of the United States, in the name of Congress, takes pleasure in presenting the Medal of Honor to Corporal Anthony Casamento, United States Marine Corps, for service as set forth in the following citation: for gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his own life, above and beyond the call of duty while serving with Company D, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division on Guadalcanal, British Solomon Islands, in action against enemy Japanese forces on 1 November 1942. Serving as the leader of a machine gun squad, Corporal Casamento directed his unit to advance along a ridge near the Botanical River, where they engaged the enemy. He positioned his squad to provide covering fire for 2 flanking units and to provide direct support for the main force of his company, which was behind him. During the course of this engagement, all members of his squad was either killed or severely wounded, and himself suffered multiple grievous wounds. Nevertheless, Corporal Casamento continued to provide critical supporting fire for the attack and the defense of his position. Following the loss of all effective squad personnel, he set up, loaded, and manned his unit's machine gun, tenaciously holding the enemy's forces at bay. Corporal Casamento single-handedly engaged and destroyed 1 machine gun emplacement to his front and took under fire the other emplacement on the flank. Despite the heat and ferocity of the engagement, he continued to man his weapon and repeatedly repulsed multiple assaults by the enemy forces, thereby protecting the flanks of the joining companies and holding his position until the arrival of the main attacking force. Corporal Casamento's courageous fighting spirit, heroic conduct, and unwavering dedication to duty reflected great credit upon himself and were in keeping with the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and the United States Naval Service. All right, with this slide here, I'll set the stage for the battle which Casamento earned the Medal of Honor in. So on the 31st of October 1942, after the Japanese large offensive at the last week of October, once they were knocked back, Vandegrift, the Marine commander, decided this is the time to go on the counteroffensive. So once and for all, he wanted to cross the Matanical River, which is shown in this slide here, and push the Japanese past the Point Cruz area, which is at the top there, all the way to Cucumbona, which is another few miles down. It had been trying to do this since the beginning of the campaign in limited offenses with the 2nd and 3rd Battle of Matanical, which you will see in some of my other videos. So on the night of the 31st, you had the 2nd Marine Regiment, which was on the east bank of the Matanical. And you can see there it said forward positions near Hill 67. So under cover of darkness, the Marine engineers put 3 footbridges across Matanical. That was unopposed, so they managed to put them up. And in the morning, the 5th Marines, you'll notice here, 5th Marine Regiment under Colonel Edson, with the 1st Battalion on the right and the left, and the 2nd Battalion on the left, proceeded across the river. And the Whaling Group, which are under Colonel Whaling, with the scout snipers and the 3rd Battalion and 7th Marines, proceeded across the Nippon Bridge area, which is the Japanese bridge, if you remember in some of my past episodes. And they were to cover that left flank. So in the morning, they proceeded across, a little opposition, they received a bit of sniper fire, but they moved across unopposed. So you had Alpha Company advancing with the 1st Battalion, and then you had Charlie Company on the left, and Casamento was attached to Charlie Company. Even though he was Delta Company, which was the weapons company, they were all, I guess, farmed out to all the rifle companies for support. So Casamento was in Charlie Company as a machine gun squad leader, with 4 machine guns at the time. So Casamento was moving Charlie Company on the ridge there on the left flank. So the scene was set. This slide here depicts what the actual terrain looked like at the time of the battle. You can see Point Cruz there, and you got Hill 84. The Japanese are on Hill 84, and they're on that side of the small creek. Right here you'll see the actual maps that the Marines were using at the time of battle. It's Map 104. So they didn't have great maps at the time. So I've read the actual unit reports and the messenger logs from the time of the battle, and this is the coordinates where they were receiving mortar fire from. So you can see on which is Grassy Ridges, that's Hill 84, and on the other side is Hill 78 on Point Cruz. This is a modern Google Map version. And you can see where Casamento and his crew, that's the, if you ever want to be in the Honiara, that's the Parliament House in the bottom right there. So Casamento with his squad, according to the witnesses, moved up. 1 machine gun squad went to the left side of the ridge, went to the right with Casamento. and the blue circle there with Casamento is where they had the position. Then Alpha Company was to the right of them in the jungle flat. Then they hit that line of Japanese and were pinned down. And that's where Casamento ran into a hornet's nest with his squad, and most of the squad was taken out. So he'd manned a machine gun there, and he was providing that covering fire to the right-hand side to try to keep the fire and the Japanese assaults or counterattacks from wiping out Alpha Company, which was to his right. This was another, I guess, a blown-up version of the aerial photo, and this is where this red circle's where Casamento was. And you can see the hill on the other side. It's Barren Hill. It's Hill 84, and he was on Hill 78. And you can see that quite clearly when the Marines had to go through. So this is downtown Honiara for those who've been there or intend to visit. So here's a view from the inside of the ravine looking back up to Casamento's position. It's part of the Parliament House now, so I didn't want to encroach on the grounds. But that tree in the middle is basically roughly where his position was. And I'm standing where I took the photos, basically where the Alpha Company Marines were, who were getting hit very hard, and Casamento providing that that covering fire for them. Here's the it says Stretcher Bears, Guadalcanal 42, but this was actually the 5th Marines on the 1st of November. They're coming back down the track with casualties. So they lost a lot of guys in 1-5 that day, and unfortunately a few of them were buried on the battlefield, and there's over 20 that's still unaccounted for. Their bodies were never recovered. This is from one of the testimonies of the 2 eyewitnesses that contributed to the recommendation of Casamento receiving the Medal of Honor 38 years after the fact. So I'll start. On November the 1st, 1942, Corporal Anthony Casamento was a commander of the 2 machine gun squads on attack against the Japanese crossing Tanakau River. Corporal Casamento remained with my squad, Corporal Lewis R. Roberts' squad, and told the other squad under Corporal Michael E. Shaner to advance on the left side of the ridge while we advanced on the right side. So this is Hill 78 for the viewers, and I'll show on the photos. We were to meet up together again. We cleared the ridge we were on before advancing to the ridge directly in front of us. Corporal Shaner's squad wasn't out of sight more than 5 minutes when our squad came under heavy machine gun and rifle fire. Corporal Casamento set up our machine gun after Corporal Roberts got killed, and Joseph J. Seymour, the gunner, and Michael Cavalieri, the assistant gunner, both got hit. That morning, Corporal Casamento added about 8 new men from C Company to our squad to help carry the ammunition boxes because our squad was undermanned. Most of these men were hit right from the start. I myself was knocked over and dazed from the concussion of a mortar shell that landed near us and threw me about 30 feet away from where Anthony Casamento was on the machine gun. I witnessed him firing belt after belt at the Japanese machine guns on the ridge directly in front of us. He continued to fire and man the machine gun by himself, even after he was knocked off it once and wounded and covered with blood all over. I witnessed him knock out one Japanese machine gun that was set up in a large tree in front of the ridge directly in front of our advance. Japanese fire being laid down at the time was so heavy that I could not move forward more than 30 feet to help Corporal Casamento and the wounded, or to help him on the machine gun. When Michael Cavalieri, who was wounded in the leg, came near me after Casamento sent him back for help, I carried him back to the first aid field station. I heard Casamento would receive a citation for his bravery at the time, and I cannot understand what was never given him at that time. I personally believe he should have received a Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery I witnessed him perform that day. On Guadalcanal, Anthony Casamento was always one of the first to volunteer for patrol, and at times was in charge of 4 machine guns on the ridge and beach defenses, even though he was just a corporal. He also captured one of the first Japanese prisoners on the island the day we landed. I know if there had been an officer in the immediate vicinity at the time to witness, as I did, this great act of heroism, he certainly would have received the Congressional Medal of Honor. I sincerely believe he is one of our great unsung heroes, and every consideration should be given to him at the time to rectify this.